So we're going to jump back over to MonoDevelop. And first of all, we are going to need some simple functions to add and remove items from our list, right? We need to be able to take the item out of one list and add it to the other. So we're going to write some little simple helper functions to do that. We're going to have a private function that returns void called addItem, and that is going to take an item called item to add, and it's going to take a shop scroll list called shop list as parameters, and then it's going to simply take the shop list that we want to add something to and use, so add item to add. Yep, there we go. All right, I swear I know how to type. Okay, so that's what we're going to use to add items to a list, and then we're also going to have a remove item from list. So we're going to declare a public function that returns void called remove item. It's also going to take an item, in this case, item to remove, and a shop scroll list called scroll list. Now, in here, what we're going to do is we're going to use a for loop, but we're going to loop backwards over the list. And the reason that we're doing this, so we're going to say I equals shop list. Come on. Oh, what did I call it? Scroll list. Let's make it shop list so I don't get confused. Shop list. Shop list dot item list dot count -1. I is greater than or equal to 0. I minus minus. So you may be wondering, why are we going backwards? Why are we counting down? The reason is that if we were counting up and also removing items from the list as we were counting, we would mess up the count, right? So counting down allows us to remove items safely while iterating over the collection. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say, as we go through the list, we're going to say if shoplist.itemList I, so if the item at this index is equal to item to remove, then we're going to use shoplist.itemList.remove at I. So we're going to iterate over the collection, look for the item that we want to remove, and when we find it, we're going to use remove at index to remove that item. Okay, so now we've got our little helper functions and we need to call them. And the place that we're going to call them is in our public function where we attempt to transfer an item, right? The player clicks on an item, they're saying they want to sell it or buy it, and we are going to attempt to do that. So we are going to declare a new, and this is going to be the function that's going to be called by our button, or with one level of a little wrapper function. So we're going to call this try transfer item to other shop. And this is going to take an item called item. So here, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to check if the other shop, right? If other shop.gold is greater than or equal to item.price, right? So we're going to see, does the other shop have enough gold to buy this item that we're attempting to sell? If they do, our gold, right, this instance of the scroll list gold is going to have item.price added to it. And other shop.gold is going to have item.price subtracted from it, right? So we sold the item, we get some gold, the other shop loses some gold, and then we're going to call add item, pass in item, and the other shop is where we're adding it to. So the item that we're adding is item, and the shop that we're adding it to is other shop. And we're going to call remove item and we're going to remove the item from this shop. Once we've done that, we're going to call refresh display. And refresh display is now going to update the display of buttons, right? Because when we're updating the lists, we're just updating the data, and then refreshing the display is going to update the visual representation of the data. And then we're also going to call other shop.refresh display. Okay, so let's save that. And there's something I need to add to refresh display. Let's just do that before I take questions. So previously in refresh display, we were only adding buttons, right? Because there was no interaction going on. We didn't have the need to remove them, but now we do. So now we're going to call remove buttons. I didn't write the remove buttons function. Whoops. That's what I was missing. Okay, let's add that. So we are going to add a private function that returns void that removes buttons, right? So this is the counterpart to our add buttons function, and it's basically going to loop through all the child objects of content panel and remove them all back to the object pool, and then we're going to repopulate using add buttons and repopulate just with the ones that we need, right? So we are going to use a while loop here. And we're going to say while content panel dot child count is greater than 0. So child count, content panel. No, that's right. Yep, okay. Just turned red for no reason. While content panel dot child count is 0. So while is greater than 0. So while there are still children of content panel of the transform, we're going to keep removing things, and then once it reaches 0, we don't need to remove anything else. So here we're going to declare a game object called toRemove and set it to equal transform.getChild 0. So as long as there are still child objects, there will always be a child 0. So we can keep removing, and we're going to get child 0's game object and store that in the toRemove variable. And then we're going to say button object pool dot return object toRemove. And so we're going to send each of the buttons currently in the list back to the object pool, and then add back the buttons that are still in the list. So now in refresh display, we can call remove buttons first, right? Make sure it's before add buttons. So we're going to remove all the buttons and then just add back the ones that we need. All right, let's save that. Oh, and then I also need to update the gold display text. So let's say my gold display dot text equals gold :space plus gold dot toString. So every time we make a change, right? Every time we update the buttons, we're also going to update the gold display with the current remaining gold total. Now, we're not completely done yet. We still need to make a small change to our button. But before I do that, let me just take a look at the chat and answer any questions about what we've just done. Mall1980 asks, can these same techniques be applied to VR UI? You know, basically, yes. You could do it. You would just need to make sure that it was world space UI, not screen space UI, because people don't like having UI stuck to their face in VR. But I haven't really thought about it, but I can't think of any reasons off the top of my head why it wouldn't work. Oh yeah, actually somebody says, should refresh display be public? It should. Did I make it private? Oh yeah, whoops. That's not correct, because we need to call it from other shop. That probably would have thrown an error. Yeah, sorry about that. Refresh display is public, not private. That was a mistake. Thank you. Gideon303 for pointing that out. Good to see you as usual.